Good morning, Reminiscible here, and what did I want to talk about? Oh my gosh, a lot of things. I wrote a long post, but the thing is, when you post a long post, people are like, well, that's too long, I'm not going to read that. So I'm going to read it for you. What is it about? I'm basically, someone complained in May that Bernie shouldn't join the Democrats because they were going to screw him over. Bernie decided, I'm not going to win the presidential race anyways, because Clinton and Trump would just, and the mainstream media, they would all slur me really badly. That's, I assume, what he expected. And just like they slurred Jill Stein, and the mainstream media did at least. And so he would have lost. And he didn't want Trump elected, so he fought against getting Trump elected. And unfortunately, he didn't. He underestimated Hillary's ability to sabotage herself, and I guess hacktivism and Russian involvement didn't help Hillary's cause either. Plus all of the bigotry in the U.S. populace, which Trump really tapped into with his demagoguery. Is demagoguery a word? So anyways, the post. I share a video called, what is it called? Bernie Sanders, don't let people's movement lay down and die at feet of corrupt Democratic Party. Now this is a video that on Facebook, if you shared it on Facebook, Facebook would give you the psychological profiling quiz being like, oh, why are you sharing this video with people? Oh, do you identify with the ideas in this video? Like, does the opinions in this video represent who you are and your internal beliefs? And like, do you feel angry over sharing this video? Why are you sharing this video? Is it based on opinion or to share stuff? Or like, why would you share this video? Like, that was Facebook's reaction. And so I talk a little bit about that. Let's skip to that. Part of my message. Basically, Facebook, Google, and YouTube are starting to censor political activism to see how far they can push with arbitrary censorship before audiences start demanding neutrality. And by censorship, I am including disabling monetization, right? If you talk about war, you probably won't get your video monetized. I posted a video about the blue menthol thing and how Trump misquoted someone, and then they're like, oh my god, Trump's a Russian operative, or Trump hires Russian operatives, that whole exploded news story. You can't monetize that. I'm sure if there's war crimes in Syria, you can't monetize that. I'm sure if you talk about the CIA involvement with the coup d'etat in Turkey against Erdogan, you can't monetize that. So that is a form of censorship. It's a chilling effect. Just like, and I would know this, just like ArenaNet screwing over the player base by not allowing people to monetize Guild Wars 2 videos. That means you can't have monetized tournaments, you can't have casters, you can't have people who make gameplay videos for a living. You can't have that coverage. Okay, the ones who made it for a living, some of them actually were allowed to monetize by striking up deals with ArenaNet. But, or I don't know, deals. They were allowed to monetize Guild Wars 2. But if you were an independent maker of videos, no, you can't. Because Guild Wars 2 was either afraid of backlash because their game was so buggy, or maybe they just didn't want anyone talking poorly of their game, or I don't know. This continued for like a year or two. I don't know how long, and they wouldn't let anyone monetize really, except several people. And so it was more than several, but it was ridiculous. And maybe it was because of the people who were so much for the PvP and the closed beta were the ones who were supposed to report bugs and then actually went on to exploit them in the release, and so then maybe ArenaNet got salty. about the competitive community. That game had a really nice fuck MOBAs. Guild Wars 2 had such a better combat system than League of Legends and Heroes of the Storm. You had your cleanses, your stability, your dodges, your projectiles, your debuffs, your damage over time, your cooldown management. You could actually, like, positioning was so important in Guild Wars 2. And I guess positioning is important in League of Legends, but, like, it's the same every fight. I guess positioning is important in Heroes of the Storm, but, like, you're always going to be doing what the shot caller says. And, like, yeah, maybe the tank or the melee DPS can make a play, or maybe you can have a well-timed gust, but that's about the extent of your positioning, and otherwise it's just going to be the same every fight according to how the shot caller decides to choreograph your team initiate. I went so off topic, I'm sorry. That was a complaint people had. Okay, so the post. Bernie would not have won as an independent. What? That's a typo. His power is dependent on grassroots movements, and he would have been crushed in the polls regardless of how many votes he actually got. The establishment does its best to mow the lawn every time a blade is raised. I get it. A blade, like grass growing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Someone truly appreciates my humor. Alright, I linked the video. Yes, this is the video that puts you on Facebook's threat to national security list, #chilling effect. Real news is facts. Fake news is reporting misinformation as truth, such as when mainstream media reported on Pearl Harbor being a surprise attack, Bill Clinton not signing NAFTA, the military-industrial complex and president having no foreknowledge or preparations for Pearl Harbor and 9/11, Osama bin Laden being responsible for 9/11, and rising from the dead 9.38 years later. For 9.38 years, because, you know, he died, and then for the next 9 and almost a half years, everybody's like, oh, let's go kill him, when he's already dead. Weapons of mass destruction existing in Iraq. Yeah, that's a thing. Said weapons justifying the invasion of Afghanistan. Typo. The positive economic influence of Wall Street or Walmart. Sorry. I'm fixing typos as I go. No, sorry. Non-GMO farmers stealing genetically modified seeds. Do people know what GM is? I think so. Gaddafi using rape and starting genocide. Assad using sarin gas. Oh my god, the list goes on. Exporting cruel... this used to be one of my favorites. Exporting crude oil at all-time low prices to overseas manufacturers, strengthening our economy and energy independence. Okay, first off, if you have a limited resource, and you know the price is going to go up, because we're running out of it, and everybody needs it, and everybody wants it, and you sell at the lowest possible price when there's the most supply, instead of just leave it in the ground for 5 years until the price skyrockets, how are you helping your economy? Natural resources, okay, maybe for like, you're sacrificing your economy in the long term. You're sacrificing your economy. And how are all of that stuff I listed is all the fake stories that mainstream media puts out. So what are we at, like 12, 13 things? I ran out of fingers. I could use toes, but I don't think you want to see my toes. Maybe someone does, but and energy independence, exporting crude oil to manufacturers overseas or refineries overseas. Should I say that? Refineries? Overseas refineries? Canada doesn't want to refine it. No way. That's bad air. Bad pollution. How does that strengthen your energy independence if you're exporting half of your crude oil? Social Security going bankrupt. Oh my god, that was a pet peeve of mine. Bernie Sanders supporters throwing chairs, Russian hackers forging documents, Erdogan seeking asylum during the coup, Jill Stein being a Russian operative. I sound like Jimmy Dore now with my sarcasm. But this is all stuff that the mainstream media reported as truth, which means misinformation, fake news. This is all stuff that the mainstream media reported as truth. Ever wonder why many children aren't allowed to speak at school about firebombing, Agent Orange, false flag operations, and other U.S. war crimes? Why journalists can't mention the meat industry without getting sued? Why farmers can't plant their own seeds, complain about the GMO takeover or livestock's well-being on factory farms without getting sued by Monsanto Bayer? I should proofread my stuff more often. Because exposing corruption hurts corporate interests. War is for profit. Censorship is for profit. Corporate media is for profit. When the establishment gets put in charge of censoring fake news, you can be damned well sure it'll define fake news as any journalism which makes the establishment look bad. There's no Illuminati out to get you, just a lot of filthy rich people who don't want people to know what they do behind the scenes. Hence, Facebook/Google. Okay, I already talked about that. That said, I do disagree with the video, blah blah blah, because Bernie would have lost. We underestimated how far Hillary would go to sabotage her own campaign. Russians, activists. So now we have Trumpalump, who is a joker card who could topple the global economy and start World War III. Let's say or. That's a little more fair to Trump. One or the other. Maybe neither. Or he could actually do better than Hillary on most of the issues that count. I never would have voted for Hillary either way, even if I could vote. So now Bernie wields significant power in the Democratic Party. And if the revolution continues, Bernie's revolution, we might have a chance at getting more progressives into office next time around. And no, not this like rich people revolution, not our revolution, but like the revolution that Bernie started, that he got rolling when he pushed that boulder of populism off of the mountain, and it just gained momentum, and now it's crashing down. And hopefully at the bottom of the mountain is a society where the government looks out for the little people. And maybe even a society where people gravitate towards truth. And I know everybody gravitates towards truth, but I mean objective truth. Like, according to me, all the stuff I've said about this fake news is like, oh, well, how could anyone believe that, like, the U.S. didn't let Pearl Harbor happen, or didn't let 9/11 happen, or how could anyone be blah, 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 because those are my views. And maybe someone else thinks that the truth is a different story. I believe that my sources are factual. Other people believe that their sources are factual. I would love to argue about any of the stuff I've said because I've pretty much only listed controversial stuff. But, let's at least have a society where we are allowed to have journalism, even if it is controversial.